I'm going to talk now about MDIC strategies and priorities and build on some of the discussion that we had this morning. I think that all of you in here are aware of what we do at MDIC, so I'm not going to spend a tremendous amount of time on that aspect. What I would like to do is just build on the discussions today around the strategic priorities that Director Shern mentioned. The National Evaluation System for Health Technologies, real-world evidence with that, promoting a culture of quality, and partnering with patients. And so what I'll start with here is just some of the strategies for how we operate within MDIC. So MDIC is a public-private partnership, and what we do is we create a forum for collaboration and dialogue. So obviously this room today, we have many of our collaborators in this room. The success of what we do is because we have great engagement and great collaboration from a wonderful group of volunteers and subject matter experts. Based on those collaborations and dialogue, we identify priorities that we work on within the community, and we make strategic investments in regulatory science to support those initiatives, and you'll hear about some of those a little later today. And then ultimately our goal is to provide tools that will drive innovation within the ecosystem. So with that, I'd like to touch on a few key trends that we see along with the strategic priorities I just mentioned. Trends that are happening out there, kind of building on what Commissioner Califf said earlier and Director Shern. We've got open innovation. This is an interesting survey that was done by PricewaterhouseCoopers, and it said that open innovation is the second largest trend in innovation within the Medtech community. It's a little hard, you can see 28% of respondents said open innovation. This is, from a trend perspective, and a lot of times when you start an organization like an MDIC, what is critical for success is really how the environment's receptivity to a new concept, and oftentimes antibodies can come out. What I would say in this case is the timing was right, and the engagement and support from the community for MDIC, I've been very impressed over the last 3 years, and that's why we are where we are today. And so it's that open innovation, that collaborative, transparent approach, recognizing that we have to change how we innovate. You saw some of the lines that show how exponential costs are going up in evidence generation for clinicals. We know that can't continue. So the good news is we've had, I think, very collaborative, thought-leading folks working on ways to change that paradigm, and that is, frankly, who we are at MDIC, is supporting that open innovation paradigm in the pre-competitive space. The second thing is we talk a lot about data, but the conundrum, so this is an interesting survey. So 82% of drug and device executives say that big data will give their companies a competitive edge. 2 out of 3 of those executives also say that they're having trouble moving from data to insight. And that, I think, is one of the opportunities that we have, again, is our ability to engage with our projects, the modeling and simulation projects, our clinical trial innovation project, and just recently announced leading the coordinating center that can provide a platform to convert this real-world evidence into insight. And that's the opportunity that we see in the world that we operate in within MDIC. And then finally, a key trend, and this has been talked about a number of times, is patient engagement. And the commissioner also mentioned this, but I think this is very interesting, that patients are willing to share their data. And they're willing to share their data first for their own benefit, 83%. But more importantly, almost 3/4 of patients are willing to share data for a broader public benefit. And so that's a huge opportunity and resource that, with the technology that we have today, can truly benefit the community. And so, this is, again, where our patient-centered benefit risk clinical trial innovation projects help provide the regulatory science tools to support this trend. We feel like, again, we're we're riding the wave, so to speak, right now, and we're in the right place at the right time. And what we need to do is continue to bring the right people together to address these opportunities in support of advancing medical technology for patient benefit. So I'm not going to go through this in detail. What you're going to hear through the rest of the day, and as part of our mission at MDIC, is first we've got some, I think, some very compelling, interesting panels that will talk about some of our programs, but we'll also speak a little more detail about other projects so that there's more awareness and understanding of what we do. But this, again, lines with the kind of key themes that have been discussed earlier in the day, rebalancing the pre- and post-market, and you can see some of our projects there. Our clinical trial innovation activities, which are really in the evidence development area, and the science of patient input. And to just give you a sense, last year when we published the Patient-Centered Benefit Risk Framework report, there's been over 1,000 unique downloads of that report. So we don't always know how the ultimate result is of our work, because companies obviously, when they sponsor a study, they're not consulting with MDIC. But we know that the people are, by the questions we get and the level of interest in that report, that there's been tremendous engagement in some of our tools. So this is just a high-level schematic of what we're doing. You saw from Director Shuren how this aligns with much of the strategies that CDRH has. And I will let the programs speak for themselves as we go in the panels through the rest of the day. So I think now we're about ready for a break. And I think we're a few minutes behind, but let's go ahead and take a 10-minute break, and then we'll come back and start the next part of our session. Thank you.